me from my voice, but I have never seen anything like it.
Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
Hello. It has been too long. It's been too long. And you're wondering what the hell I've been doing. I'm wondering what the hell you've been doing. It has been, almost a month and a half since we got on the podcast and talked to you guys. And that's on me, honestly. That's on me 1,000%. I'm going to give you a little bit of update, what's happening. And then I have, hopefully, a really good show for you. Because we got to talk about this crazy person who, he's running for president, he's not running for president, what's happening here. Got to talk about Kanye West. Clay Travis, who I have not minced words about before, but I've been seeing more and more of him while I was on my hiatus, and this guy, so got to talk about that, and then of course, sports are coming back. So, let me give you a little bit of a background, what I was doing, what was happening, what was happening with you, Andrew, while you weren't talking to us. Well, so here's what the deal was. I had been podcasting all during the coronavirus. Early on, I was doing, interviews and shows and putting out content like left and right, and it was starting to drain me. And I've talked about this before on the podcast, that when you are putting out content 24/7, when you're doing a 5-day-a-week podcast, putting out multiple podcasts a day, granted, these aren't 2-hour-long shows. Granted, I'm not doing live audiences, but I'm doing it. I'm putting it out. It's taking time to edit. There's a lot going into this. I try to make this a pretty good show for you guys. So I'm doing all this work. I'm not seeing results. I'm not seeing the streaming numbers go up. We got a little bit of bump early, but I'm not really seeing those numbers change very much. I'm not seeing a lot of people tuning back in and listening. So I got discouraged. Very natural thing to do. And for you guys that listen all the time, that's not you. That's the people who aren't, right? That's the people who had other things to do. Now, I'm not going to blame anybody during an international pandemic, a once-in-a-generation event, to not listen to my podcast, okay? I'm not that guy. They missed out on some great stuff, but that's beside the point. So, did a little bit of time off. I was only going to take about a week, 2 weeks off. A week turns into 2 weeks. 2 weeks turns into a month. And then all of a sudden, you're just not doing it anymore. And then a bunch of other stuff happens. I end up going on a little family trip to Minnesota. But before that, my information got stolen. So I had to change all my card numbers. I had to change everything. At the end of the day, the site that we use to host the podcast, I didn't get my new card in time to punch that up. So what ends up happening is we lose the back half of, the back half of the podcasts, which, again, for those of us that want to go back and listen, that's a tough blow. I don't think they're going to be on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. I haven't really looked too much further into it. I just know they're not on our hosting site anymore. They are on YouTube, though. So if you want to listen to an old show, that is available for you to do. You can go back and listen to the old shows on YouTube. But I don't know. I think they might still be on Spotify, but I cannot promise you that they will be. So that was a big problem, too. And then, of course, just getting the coronavirus blues. Okay? And this is something that isn't getting talked about a ton. This is another one of those, we don't want to talk about the mental health issues of any in particular subjects. I'm going to put up a ballpark, probably millions of Americans who are struggling with the same thing that I am. Coronavirus blues is what I call them. Layman's terms, you get depression during this thing. There was a time very early in this, I was doing everything I could not to interact with people. I was the guy who was saying, hey, if we social distance, if we FaceTime, if we Zoom call each other, that's better than us meeting face to face. Because the odds of one of us catching it, one of us spreading it to somebody unknown to us, then, if we limit our interactions with each other, that will hopefully end this. But what I didn't account for is that there were more people not doing that than were, and this thing dragged, instead of doing what Alexander and I had said early on, hey, this might be a month, 2-month problem, to a this might be a year of just missing social interactions, high school graduations, weddings, really sad funerals. People are missing because of this thing. So I was distancing myself. I was trying to do everything I could not to interact with people. And then what ends up happening is you get sad because you're just not seeing anybody. And that layered on with, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit more, is the fact that radio, and just every industry in general, but media, entertainment, radio, it took such a huge hit during this thing that the odds of somebody like me, an entry-level person who has done work, who has put in the time, who has put in, honestly, more hours than I think a lot of other people had up until this point, somebody like me who was like looking for a job in this market, this economy, and it just didn't happen. It wasn't going to happen for me, which I came to that conclusion just a couple days ago, honestly. But so this is the second part of this. So while I was away, we'll say that while I was away, I was applying to jobs every single day. Okay, there's some people, and I'm not begrudging anybody for taking some time off. Okay, international pandemic, it's a once in a generation thing. Like I mentioned, this is a hey, I don't want to get out of bed type of thing. I'm not gonna hold it against you because it's discouraging. It's discouraging, and this is how it is. But for me, I told myself, hey, you're not podcasting. You need to be doing something. Apply for jobs. So what I did, and this is not something I would recommend. Okay, what I did is I found every radio station in the country. Okay, there's like 600 and something stations, and what I ended up doing is I found information on all of these stations. I found the program director or somebody in a managerial position. And I would either email them through the company website, email them through the station website. And what you do then is it'll give you like comment, okay, I'm going to talk to the program director. Hey, my name is Andrew Zimmel, recent college grad. I'm not necessarily like not looking for a job with your company. I'm networking. I'm trying to work on all these different things, these different avenues. Can you do anything for me? And a lot of them, most of them, no response. Okay? Most of them, no response. Some of them got back to me and they were like, hey, we got this part-time thing, or hey, we have this, role that might work for you in the future, but right now it's not here. Which, that was a tough thing for me to kind of swallow, was the people who, especially at smaller stations, who were saying to me, hey, Zimmel, we don't have any full-time things for you, but we got some part-time. And it was, I think it was for the best, in hindsight, that I didn't uproot my life, that I didn't pack all my things and move to a different city to do a part-time show. Okay? I think it's better not to have done that. But I know somebody's going to be thinking to themselves at some point when I'm telling the story to them, hopefully in the future when I have a job, they're going to be thinking, well, you could have been employed earlier if you would have just swallowed your pride and gone. And, that might be the case. But I didn't think that was the right thing. I still don't think that that's the right thing to do, to uproot your life, to move across the country to, a one-horse, two-horse town to just do a part-time job that you're going to be having to work weekends at Walmart to pay your rent. Okay? Like that, I call me a crazy person, call me whatever you want to say. But I don't think that that's the the right avenue for me to go down. So I didn't do that. I sent a bunch of emails and didn't get the responses I wanted. Emailed some CEOs of companies, of Entercom and Cumulus and stuff, and kind of pled my case. And a couple of those guys shot me emails back and were like, hey, we don't do any of the hiring, but I will make sure that your resume is on the top of the pile when we start. Okay? Like, I'll make sure that my guys know to get the stuff to you. So I said, okay, great. No problem. So here we are in July 20th of 2020. Okay, who would have thought if you told me a year ago at this time you'd be unemployed living with your parents, I would have thought you were crazy. I thought everything was working in the right direction for me. But as these things go, you never can be too sure. Okay, you never count your chickens before they hatch. So that's where we are. That's where we are right now. And we're doing this podcast, which is great. I love doing the podcast. I love talking to you guys. I love getting all this stuff out there because it's, a necessary thing to do, I think. And we're going to continue to do it 5 days a week. I don't know. I'm probably just going to do more longer podcasts and put those out than do, hey, I'm going to do like 5 podcasts on these 5 different subjects and put them all out for you. It's just too much. It was tough then. It's tough now to edit all that, to, cut everything up and put everything together. So I'm just going to start doing, hey, we're going to do one long podcast. It's going to be between probably 20 and 30 minutes long. And we're going to put that out. That will be there for you. We're going to start getting the guests come back in. The Brady McBride interview that we did with a Texas State quarterback, that was really great. You guys love that. So we're going to try to do more interviews with different college quarterbacks, hopefully. Going to do more interviews with different quarterbacks just in general, different athletes in general, hopefully, these next coming weeks and months, especially as sports revamps up. But the Brady McBride one went really well because it got mentioned in Dave Campbell's football magazine. So if you live in the state of Texas, if you like college football, like high school football, even though those two things aren't looking great to happen this year, those guys over there wrote like a 400-page magazine. And it's the best one, probably in the country. So I would highly, highly, highly recommend to check that out, and then also listen to the Brady McBride podcast. So let's talk about Kanye West. Okay, enough about me. We'll talk about somebody who talks about themselves 24/7. Okay, Kanye West, who objectively at this point, he needs help. We've known that since I'm going to say 2016 probably. And at first, I will admit, like many suburban white youth in this country, I was a Kanye West fan. Okay, I was one of Kanye's biggest fans. I had a poster of him in my room. I swear to God, this is true. In high school, I said to myself, I revamped my entire personality, changed the way that I looked at the world, changed the way that I talked about other people, talked about myself, to kind of form into a Kanye West mini-me. And I'll explain that. So what I did, when you're in high school, you don't have a ton of confidence. A lot of people don't, at least. I know I didn't. And I was able to look at Kanye and say, okay, the way that he peacocks his feathers, I'm going to peacock my feathers like that. I'm going to change the way that I looked at the world to kind of be more like Kanye. WWKD. What would Kanye do? Okay? And I that's what I did. I put myself in that mindset. And Life of Pablo was great. That was the last really good album I remember him having. That was my senior year in high school. He put that out in 2016. Great album. I was all on board. Then he starts doing a little bit more of the bipolar stuff, which you can't hate somebody for having a mental illness. I know a lot of people try to. I know a lot of people will talk disparagingly about celebrities who go through a lot. If we're being all completely honest, we all want to be celebrities, but none of us want to have to deal with the stuff that Britney Spears, Lindsay Lohan, Kanye West have to deal with from fans and from media alike. Okay, like we want the fame, the acclaim, but we don't want the stuff that comes with it. So I'm not going to hate Kanye for not taking his pills or not doing what he needs to do to get help early in this thing. 2016, we're talking. I'm not going to hate on the guy for that. But then he starts doing the Trump stuff. He starts saying slavery is a choice. Starts, all different types of stuff that a normal person would not do. Okay, a person who is of right mind and body would not be doing the things that Kanye West was doing. And that's really when I was saying to myself, and I think that every college guy goes through this. I think that every young man and woman goes through this, the having to kill your idols thing, which is it's a real thing. Okay, you grow up loving somebody, you grow up idolizing somebody, and idols fall and love ends at some point. And that's really what happened to me, is that I said to myself, I'm not going to listen to Kanye's new music like that. It wasn't that good to begin with, but I just wasn't going to be down with that type of stuff. I didn't like the stuff that he was saying, and that's how we support in 2020, is that if you don't like somebody, if you don't agree with the message, you can go on Twitter and you can complain and you can bitch about it, and then still listen to the music, still give them the streams, or you can do what I did. I didn't care. Kanye West would be mentioned on the timeline. I'm not engaging in that content. Kanye West said this crazy thing about this person, or slavery is a choice, or goes on TMZ, and instead of watching the video and trying to dissect everything Kanye did, I just didn't watch. I didn't listen to the new music. I just put myself as far away from the situation as possible. Something that a lot of more people need to do, I think. So I put myself as far away from the situation as I humanly could. And here we are. And this is where I can't... We're back in the saddle again. So Kanye says he's going to run for president. Okay, he's not going to run for president. Okay, well, it didn't make sense for him to say that in the first place, because he knew, and we knew, that there's no way that he was going to be able to sign the right forms, go down the direct avenues to run for the highest office in the land. And when Trump ran in 2016, I'll be the first one to admit, I didn't think he was going to win early on. I didn't think that he had the backing of the American people. I didn't think that everybody who watched Celebrity Apprentice would vote for him. So to say that I wouldn't think Kanye could win, I'm not going to make that same mistake twice. I think that the people who bought his albums and still buy his albums probably would go to the ballot box and vote for him. All right, so he does this rally in Alabama, and there's two clips that come out of this rally. If you haven't seen them, I'm going to break it down for you. The first clip we're going to play is these abortion comments. And I know, hot button topic. I think Kanye knew it was a hot button topic. That's why he said it. He's going to get views for that. And then, of course, this is the trending thing this morning, Monday morning, on Twitter.com, the Harriet Tubman comments. So we're going to play the abortion comments. I'm going to talk about it. And then we're going to play what could arguably be worse than his slavery was a choice comments. It's up for debate. His Harriet Tubman comments. So here's the abortion comments right now.
My mom saved my life. My dad wanted to abort me. My mom saved my life. There would have been no Kanye West because my dad was too busy.
So a lot of breakdown there. First things first, got to talk about how this is a hot button issue, and I know exactly what Kanye's doing here. You talk about this type of stuff, you bring this type of stuff up in the public light, you're going to get people to comment. You're going to get the evangelical, pro-life, right side of the country who, they don't like Kanye. Let's be honest here. Your parents, my parents, that generation of people, maybe there's a handful of them. Let me rephrase this. White, middle-aged people do not like Kanye West. There's no going around this, okay? There's not a delegation of white, middle-aged men who are thinking to themselves, ooh, Kanye liked Donald Trump, and now he's agreeing with our position on women's rights issues. Oh, Kanye's one of the good ones. Well, you know what? Yeah, there might be. There could be a delegation of those guys. But the point is that there's not a... He's not talking to a certain group. This is group that he is aligning himself with. This group that he is making himself a poster child for will throw him away as quickly as they pick him up. The minute that the pro-life side of these things pick up on Kanye West, use him as the, oh, look, this rapper, he's cool, he's going to make children, or teenagers change their mind about these issues. If Kanye thinks this, you should think this. The minute that starts happening, remind yourselves that this is a group who will throw Kanye to the wolves just as quickly the next time he makes any sort of faux pas, okay? They will not. They'll align themselves with him when it is advantageous for them, and the minute that it's not, they will not be there to support Kanye. Kanye needs to know that too, that they will not be there for him. Second thing, we need to talk about how Kanye's mom's dying has changed his entire personality, has changed the entire way that he looks at the world. This is something that happens to a lot of people. I am not probably qualified enough to have this mental health conversation with Kanye or with anyone, but I will say this, that there is a time and a place that you need to go get help. And that time is now, and that place could be anywhere in Los Angeles. He just needs to go find somebody to talk to. He needs to have somebody to unpack the stuff. Because I personally might be bipolar disorder, might be multiple personality, might be narcissism, could be all those things. Those are all real things that could be happening to Kanye. All real things that could be happening. But, in my opinion, the way that I'm looking at this, I think that it all can be traced back to his mom dying. And that the minute that happened, that tragedy, that something in him broke, something in him snapped. So that's the other thing. So him talking about his mom and these things, that matters. Thirdly, he talks about how he was going to abort his daughter because he was too busy. He was too busy. His dad was too busy. That's how they get you. He doesn't really explain it anymore. You can hear him kind of crying. The crowd cheers him on as he's crying. He never explains this any more than just that comment. And that troubles me because it we need to hear more background to that. We need to hear more from the West family, something more from him on that. And fourthly, and this is the thing that will really shock me, he says that he was going to abort his daughter. We need to hear from Kim. And that's not me saying, well, we need to hear both sides. This is the mother of his children. Okay, this is his wife. Much longer than I think any of us thought was going to be his wife. But this is his wife. We need to hear from her. We need to hear from that family. That family wants to talk about all these different things. They want to be in the spotlight 24/7. Well, this is one of those situations where you have to be in the spotlight. This is one of those situations where you need to have a type of conversation. This is one of those type of times where we need to hear from you. I don't like hearing from the Kardashians. I'll admit it. You don't like to hear from the Kardashians either. You'll admit it. Nobody enjoys having to hear what they have to say. But this is one of those situations where, Kanye says one thing, I need to hear what Kim has to say. Because if she owns up to it too, and she says, yeah, it went through our heads, we had a conversation, okay, well now I might believe it a little bit more. Now I might be more inclined to listen to what this guy has to say. But to me, personally, I think that he is full of it. I don't think that this really happened. I think that he is going through another one of his situations, his episodes. And if that's the case, then this next part makes even more sense. I'm going to play the Harriet Tubman clip.
When Harriet Tubman never actually freed the slaves. She just had the slaves go work for other white people.
You can hear an audible, come on, man, when Kanye's doing this. You can hear it. This is later in the same rally. This is later in the same type of speech. This is after he cried. And you can tell that the audience is sick of him at this point. And there's a lot in between these two things. I'm not going to try to splice these things together and tell you that they happen one after the other. But there's time in between the two. But these are the comments that get people to turn on you. These are the comments that Kanye makes. The Yaments, I should say. These are the type of things that gets people to turn on you. The minute that you start throwing shade, talking down on one of the heroes, there's like a handful of heroes from the Civil War, historic heroes. Not this is a great general, not this is a future president, not this was a brave battalion, not those type of things that you read in children's books, but like legitimate heroes, legitimate people. There's very few, there's even fewer historical figures who have little to no flaws. Okay? Harriet Tubman, there's no record of her, cheating on her spouse. There's no record of her taking any bribes. There's no record. No, this was a slave woman who helped free other slaves, risked life and limb, dealt with seizures her entire life because she was hit as a child with a weight as a slave. This is one of the few heroes that we have from that time period. Flawless heroes. Self-sacrifice. Does everything right. Saves lives. Okay? This is one of the few people that we can look to and say, this is a good person. We talked about putting her on the money before. We said that we were going to put her instead of Andrew Jackson. I love the idea. If you look at everybody on the bills that we have, every one of those guys is flawed, including Abraham Lincoln. All right? So I love the idea of Harriet Tubman being on the $20 bill. Kanye West, on the other hand, does not think that. He thinks that she was just here to help free some slaves to go work for white people. There comes a time where you go from just being funny to being dangerous, and he has crossed that line a long time ago. A long time ago. So let's talk about somebody else who crossed the line, somebody else who is dangerous. We're talking about Clay Travis. So Clay Travis, you might know him, Outkick the Coverage, Fox Sports Radio. One of the guys, I'll tell you my Clay Travis story. So I was in college, freshman year, I want to say. This is right around when Clay started getting big in 2016. Coincidence is it's there. So come home, talking to my parents. My dad's telling me that he listens to Clay Travis in the mornings, and I'm thinking to myself, I don't really know who Clay is. Never really listened to him before. I'll check him out. So I check him out. He has his morning show on Fox Sports, but he also does these like periscopes later in the day. I was like, okay, I'm interested. Let's see what he has to say. And it was they were good. Periscopes were okay. His point at the time was more sports. He was talking more sports early in 2016 rather than everything else that he talks about now. He's more of almost a political commentator who parodies a sports talk host than he is a sports talk host at this point. And this is where my issue with him has been and continues to be, is that I've said this a billion times now, that in 2016, or I guess it was 17-ish, the Kaepernick kneeling for the flag, the anthem, starts happening. Peaceful protesting. Really not a ton of ways that you can cut this cake. And everybody in sports media freaks out. They do the same segment. They do the same talking points. They all parrot each other. It's like an echo chamber. Listeners are turning it off in the car. And it was a bad look for ESPN and for really everybody. One of the few dissenters from the national conversation was Clay Travis, who had a completely different opinion. And this is where he figured it out, that there is money to be made in being a shyster, being somebody disingenuous, being the other voice in the room. There's money in that, and he figured it out early, and he has written a book called, I think, Republicans Buy Sneakers Too, like conservatism in sports. He claims to be a libertarian, claims to be a very well-read and woke guy, former lawyer. He claims to be all these things, but he's not, because if he was, he would act it. He would act smarter. He would listen and not be as dangerous as he is. And this is what I mean when I say dangerous. I've had friends who, early in this coronavirus thing, didn't agree with the numbers, didn't believe the masks, didn't believe Dr. Fauci, thought the whole nation should open up. And at the time, I was agreeing with them. April, I get it. We all want jobs. We all want we all want our family functions to work. We want to have the family reunions. We want to keep the mom and pop shops open. That wasn't going to happen in April. Things were closing down. Social distancing. Okay? All these things were happening. And what ends up occurring is that Clay Travis builds this coalition of people who weren't Clay Travis fans before. They didn't agree with him on race or politics in America. But Clay was the only guy out here saying that we need to bring sports back. We need to play these games. The numbers aren't that bad. It's the national media who's making it to be a bigger deal than it is. And this is where he lies. And I'll say this. And this is free advice for the listeners. You can have this. There's never too late a time to turn back on what you have to say. If you have an opinion, if you think that Dez Bryant caught the ball, and you see new evidence that he did not catch the ball, you can change it. You can change your opinion. You can say, hey, I was wrong. Hey, I had a little bit less information than I thought I did. Hey, this thing, my opinion has changed on it. I've done it enough times. I know. It's difficult to go back on what you had to say. It's difficult to change your opinion. I was a big Dirk hater. I did more research. I watched more tape. I talked to more fans. I'm not a Dirk hater anymore. Don't love the guy, but I for far away hate him. Okay? Clay Travis, you can do this. Other people who are in that camp, you can do this. You can look at the numbers. You can understand what Dr. Fauci has to say. You can do your own research. You don't have to listen to CNN or Fox News. You can go do your own independent research and look at this. And you can see that Fauci is right. That the numbers do line up. That wearing a mask does help. You can do all these things and help open sports back up. Open the country back up. But it's up to you. It's up to you. It's up to us to get it done. And that's where Clay's dangerous, because he has continued to double down and triple down on his stance, and that is the thing that's going to hold us back. If there's no sports in the fall, it's going to be on Clay Travis. Okay? And I'll say this. If there's no sports in the fall, but fewer people die because of this thing, and I don't get a job because of this thing, it's going to suck. I'm not going to be happy. Okay? I am going to be very disappointed, but I'll tell you what. I will be okay knowing that my grandmother, that your grandmother, that your brother, that your sister, that all of these people survived this pandemic because we took a little bit more time to do the numbers, took a little bit more time to make sure that everybody was safe. Because at the end of the day, entertainment is one thing, Saving lives is another. Saving lives is another thing. So I'm okay with it. I'm buying it. I'm fine with it. All right. Tomorrow we're going to talk about sports. I promise you. Later today we're going to talk about sports. This is something that I was waiting to talk about at the end of the podcast. I have decided to give you more of me, mostly because there's more of me to give. I gained a lot of weight during this coronavirus. All right, but what the plan is that 5 to 6 p.m. on YouTube, on Twitch, on Periscope, we're going to have a show. It's going to be really rough to start. I'm not promising you ESPN 6. I'm not promising you SportsCenter. I'm not promising you any of these high-budget shows. This is going to be very different from anything that I've done in the past. This is going to be very different than anything I'm going to do in the future. This is going to be very unique. It's going to be very us, okay? So I'm starting this thing today, Monday, 5 to 6. We're going to do it every week, 5 to 6 on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays. So 5 days a week we're going to be doing this. I'm going to be putting the podcast out in the morning. You can listen to the podcast. Then we're going to do the show in the afternoon from 5 to 6. Now, I hope that you all will be there. I hope that you all will watch. I hope that you all will listen, because it's going to be pretty good, I think. It's going to be rough, but it's going to be fun. So I trust that you'll be there, and I will talk to you tomorrow, and we're going to talk about all the different sports. I promise you. We won't talk about Kanye or Clay Travis or anything, but these are the two things that have bothered me the most during the pandemic, and we got them off our chest. So tomorrow, sports. I'll be back. Love you guys. Please continue to be safe.